Hello friends, in this video we will see AngularJS ng model directive and two-way binding. Let's start with what is two-way binding. Now we have a two-way binding when a model variable is bound to a HTML element that can both change and display the value of a variable. In general, we could have more than one HTML element bound to same variable. For example, if I have a model variable which is bound to a control, so that model variable's value will be shown in the control. Now as soon as I change the value of the control, that value will be updated to model as well. Okay, so now that is called as a two-way binding. If there is a change in the model, it will update the controls value. If there is change in the control value which is bounded to that model property, that model property value will also get updated. Now suppose if that model property is bound to two controls, okay, if I make change in one control, it will update the model property. In the same way, it will synchronize and update the second control as well. This is what two-way binding in AngularJS. We'll see with example how it happens. Let's move to what is ng model. Now ng model initiates two-way binding. ng model binds the control to a property on a scope. Now for your reference, scope is basically the view model which is maintained by the AngularJS. Now this scope is, it basically travels from controller to view and view to controller to pass the data. So whatever property you declare using ng model, that will be created in the scope. ng model will try to bind the property given by evaluating the expression on the current scope. If the property doesn't already exist on the scope, it will be created implicitly and added to the scope. This means that it checks whether that property is present in the scope or not. If it is present, then the value of that property will be shown in the control. Otherwise, it will implicitly create a property on the scope. So let's see by example what we meant to say. Now I have a simple basic AngularJS application where I'm going to show what is two-way binding and ng model is used for. So let's create a input field of type text. You can see text box has been rendered, so I can type anything inside that. Now what we are going to do here is I'm going to use ng model and I'm going to give it a name, that is name. Now what happens when you use ng model, it will create a property of name in the scope. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this name inside h2 tag by using an expression. So what happens, as soon as you write something inside this text box, this expression will evaluate and will be shown on the inside the h2 tag. So let's see the demo. Let me type something. So I type hello, so you can see the h2 is updated as soon as you write something inside the text box. Okay, so this is what two-way binding is. Now let me create one more input tag after h2 and I'm going to name it as enter name copy. Now here I'm just going to show the value using the above name scope variable. Okay, so I'm not binding this control to name property in the scope, but I'm just using to display the name property. So if I refresh this, you can see I have one more text box. So as soon as I type, it will be shown here as well. But when you are going to type in the second, that is in the copy, it is not updating the model because it is not bounded to the model property. But if you include ng model here and bind it to the same property and then check, so first I'm going to type in the first text box, then I'm going to type in the second text box. Now the second control is also bounded to the name property in the scope. So as soon as you type anything in this, the model property will be updated and it will update these and this controls. So what happens in the background, the AngularJS continuously track for changes in the model. As soon as it tracks there is a change in the model, it updates all its references, all the controls where it is bounded to. So this is how the two-way binding and ng model works. I hope you understand the video and you like it. Thank you friends.